President Bush said that Iran, quote, presents a threat to the entire globe, unquote. But this is nonsense. And we heard the same untruths about Iraq. He said that Iraq was a total danger to the world. Well, at the time he said that, I and many other observers came out and said that this is ridiculous because, first of all, Iraq doesn't have nuclear weapons, which is the only real weapon of mass destruction. And even if it does, it has no means of delivering them. Its longest range missile was 120 miles. Its air force was completely grounded. It had no way of delivering ordnance of threatening anybody. Same thing with Iran. Iran's longest range missile, the Shahab 3, has a range of 12 to 1,500 kilometers maximum. This means that Iran cannot threaten North America. It can't threaten Western Europe. This is a preposterous comment, and anybody who says that Iran is a threat to the world, loudmouthed and aggressive as Iran has been, is lying, or they're completely ignorant, don't know what they're talking about. I think the chances are very high that the U.S. and or Israel will attack Iran's nuclear infrastructure and major military targets. We have no hard evidence, or no hard evidence has been shown that Iran has nuclear weapons, in spite of different leaks and things like that. There's circumstantial evidence, yes, but nothing concrete. And even the head of the CIA came out and said just recently that Iran was probably 5 to 10 years away from making a nuclear weapon. Now, having said that, Iran has been trying to get nuclear weapons since the 1970s. The Shah, before he was overthrown, concluded a secret pact with Israel by which Israel was going to supply Iran with nuclear warheads and with medium-range missiles, its Jericho missile, which probably was developed with some secret Iranian funding. The Iranians, I know this from Pakistani intelligence sources who told me over a decade ago that Iran had offered to pay Pakistan's entire defense budget for 10 years in exchange for nuclear technology. So I have no doubt that the Iranians at some point will want nuclear weapons. And why shouldn't they have nuclear weapons? Let me utter this heresy. Look at their neighbors. The Israelis have 200 nuclear weapons. Russia has nuclear weapons. India is developing nuclear weapons. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. They're surrounded by nuclear powers. Why can't the Iranians also have nuclear weapons? The United States is now in bed with India, whose nuclear program it condemned. You know, India refused to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Washington condemned India's secret nuclear developments. India has 100 nuclear weapons. India is developing submarine-launched missiles with nuclear warheads. India is developing a 7,000-mile range ICBM that can carry a nuclear warhead, can strike any part of the United States. And yet the Bush administration is giving nuclear technology and nuclear secrets and nuclear support to India, a rogue nation that didn't sign the NPT, whereas it's condemning Iran, which has attacked nobody, which has no capability of offensive nuclear operations, and is a signatory of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And the U.S. is condemning Iran. It's got all its allies to back up there, too. And the reason the allies are doing it because they don't want to see the U.S. launch another crazy war that may blow back on them. The U.S. has certainly been preparing for it. It has been probing Iran's air defenses for over a year with drone aircraft and CIA aircraft. Commandos, U.S. commandos and British SAS have been going in, setting up beacons and target markers and identifying targets. The U.S. has supplied Israel with the superb F-15I model fighter bomber with special new conformal fuel tanks, which will allow the Israeli aircraft to reach Iran, in fact, probably even to reach Pakistan. Extra long range. And the United States has just supplied Israel with 500 new, very deep penetrating bombs, specially made, which are designed to penetrate deeply buried targets. The majority of Iranians support the Islamic governments in Iran, and they support Ahmadinejad, who is wildly popular, even though we see him in the West as a ranting, dangerous person. In Iran, what he's speaking to his voters in Iran, and he's adopted what I think is an outrageous tone in his speeches, saying Israel has to be wiped off the face of the map, and that the Holocaust is a myth. I mean, yes, as you say, it looks like he's trying to push all the buttons and wave a flag, come and attack me. But he's talking to his voters. And I was watching President Bush the other night, and President Bush is doing exactly the same thing, too. He's talking to his voters. You know, when he said after 9/11 that we're going to launch a crusade, 87% of evangelical Christians in a recent poll supported the invasion of Iraq. What happened to turn the other cheek and love thy neighbor? So this is the mirror image of Ahmadinejad, with Bush calling for global jihad against Iran and Afghanistan and God knows who's next. He talked, we know from leaks from 10 Downing Street, that he proposed to Tony Blair. He said after he attacked Iraq, he wanted to go on, quote, go on to Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. So he's fulminating to his Bible Belt constituents in the States, saying things that outrage people around the world, and Ahmadinejad is saying things to his constituents that outrage us. This is the kind of stupidity that we see from Iran, because Iran is doing the same thing. If the Israelis were to attack Iran tomorrow, the whole world would say, oh, yeah, those Iranians, they got what they deserved. Consequences of an American and or Israeli attack on Iran be very interesting. First of all, the Iranians have the ability to punish American forces in Iraq. The current Iraqi government, I say government loosely, guys who are holding on in Baghdad, the Shia governments in Baghdad, are very close to Iran. And I think an American attack on Iran, I'm certain, will produce an outrage in the Shia community in Iraq. Iran has the capability to launch commando raids all up and down the Gulf. It can attack American bases in Bahrain and in Qatar, the main base. It can attack American warships in the Gulf. It can attack Kuwait. It can mine the Gulf of the Strait of Hormuz, thereby shutting off the oil exports from the Gulf. It can shut off its own oil exports. Iran is the world's 4th largest exporter of oil. You can imagine that some oil workers are kidnapped in Nigeria, and there's a little flutter in the oil market and prices jump up. Imagine what a major cutoff of oil would do. It would produce worldwide panic, and panic in the United States. Much of the TV that we are getting in the Western world, particularly in North America, is so biased or so determined to present one particular point of view and not present others, that we are getting, and we have always gotten, a very distorted picture of what goes on in the Mideast, which is very often much more to do with domestic American politics than with the reality abroad.